one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
As always, the Zoom connection is available for this meeting. Information for accessing is on the SAU website, and it's available for people listening to make comments or comment period if so desire. The proceedings are also videotaped by Jax within a few days. Are there any additions or deletions?
None.
Open for public comment. Anyone in the room or via Zoom who wishes to address the board on any matter concerning the district, you can do so now.
I do not see any hands raised virtually.
Public comment is closed. Correspondence.
We received one letter from a parent, an elementary school parent, thanking us for the efforts of a para who helped her child.
Thanks.
Coincidentally, Lisa and Wendy will not be joining us this evening, so everyone who is around the table is who we have. Incidentally, as people make presentations to the board, please feel free to use the microphone on the table down here so you can sit down comfortably and use the table to organize any paperwork you might have. And we have our consent agenda, approval of public hearing and public minutes from the October 26th meeting. And I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes from public hearing number 1 and public hearing number 2. I think we can do them together.
I'll make a motion to approve the public hearing number 1 minutes and the public hearing number 2 minutes from October 26, 2022.
By MJ, second by Stephen. Do you want to use the microphone? Computer active pages.
Your microphone is very.
Yeah, yours is
barely hear you.
And yours is too
Is this any better?
That's
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
Getting that wicked feedback.
I think he's adjusting it.
Okay, great.
Ugh.
I think we're okay. I'm not getting that feedback anymore. And everyone can hear me now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so were there any comments or questions or corrections? Aaron?
On the participants, I was there at that meeting
and I think there may be somebody else that's not on the participants list as well.
At the public
Right.
hearing?
There's more than 6 of us. I think there's 8, me and somebody else.
Was Wendy there? She's there.
I don't see Kristen on there.
Yeah, I wasn't on there. I wasn't here last meeting.
So I think it's just Aaron that's missing.
So maybe Lisa is missing.
Lisa, yeah, Lisa's
Lisa
missing.
and Aaron, let's add Lisa.
Lisa was late, though,
That's right.
but Erin was there.
Okay. So for the public hearing minutes, let's indicate that Aaron is here. For a vote. Okay, all in favor? 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Opposed, abstained, 1. We now need a motion, please, to approve the regular board meeting minutes from October 26th.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular minutes from October 26, 2022.
By MJ, second by Stephen. Corrections or questions? Aaron?
Same comment for this one.
Oh, yeah. Aaron. Poor Aaron.
You're so quiet.
Especially quiet.
Too quiet.
You missed the meeting before.
Right.
How many times do you have to come before you wipe out an absence? Okay, is there anything else besides correcting the participant list? All right, hearing no other corrections or questions, all in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, opposed, abstention, 1. 6, 0, 1. Are there any nominations or nominations? Thank you. Student report. We have a standard report of this week. Welcome, Robin.
Hello, I'm Ava. I'm a junior from Lebanon High School, and I'm here on behalf of LHS Council. So to start up on updates, Day of Work, which happened a couple of weeks ago, was a success. We had 66 students participate along with 19 different job sites around the Upper Valley. They completed tasks such as leaf raking, any other fall work. Each job site host donated a sum of money to the Lebanon High School. We raised up to $2,600, and all the funds are going to the council grant committee. Every year, 2 applications are sent out in the fall and the spring where clubs can request money according to their needs. The fall application has been sent out, and we have already received several requests for it. For upcoming events, Mr. Kaleo, who's a teacher at LHS, is hosting a dodgeball tournament with the help of council starting December. It's similar to the March Madness that takes place in March, but signups will start the 22nd of November, and the final game will be held during Winterfest, which is planned as of now the day before holiday break. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Robin? Is the dodgeball tournament limited to students?
No, actually, it's open to staff as well. Yeah.
You want
If
a
you
board?
want to come,
You want a board team? You want a board team? Come on.
we could talk it out.
How many people on the team?
10 people per team.
Wow.
Only 9.
I could join your team. I mean, you need a student in your team. Yeah.
Anything else for Robin? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to leadership team updates. And the first is a technology update from Pete.
Good evening. My name's Peter Merritt. I'm the Director of Technology for the Lebanon School District. You should have a packet for the technology briefing. Starting off with things that we were successful at doing this year. We have moved our data center off-site backup to Brunswick Naval Air Station, which is a lot. They have a server up there, a bank of network storage array, and we can easily bring the backup back in, and they help us with the whole process. Our local data center, we replaced 3 host servers, and we replaced a server storage array, and that is with ESSER money. The old server array we repurposed, so it is now saving our security camera information, making it a lot better, a lot more storage space, and a lot higher resolution on the security cameras. One of the things, and this is a project that I have been wanting to do for quite a few years, the second floor at the high school, we added a switch closet, an additional one. We have a switch closet on the first floor, and it is packed solid. We couldn't add another data outlet to it. So we installed the second switch closet on the second floor, and so far that's working great. We have the new technology, the laser projectors, and they seem to be working very well for us. We changed our standard teacher laptop. We went from the Lenovo's to Dell, and we were able to save $27,000 on the purchase of these laptops, teacher laptops for Mount Lebanon School. Some of our problems we had this year was the supply chain issues. Basically, we didn't get our projectors until basically about a month ago, where we were hoping for them during the summer so they could be installed, but they finally did come in. And there is a computer chip shortage, which is going to increase the price of computers by about $100. So we're going to be feeling the effect of that the 23-24 school year. The technology department, our life cycle replacement plan, basically teacher equipment we do at the SAU budget level, and all student devices are done at the school level, and that's how it's broken out as far as the budget. Schools are responsible for all student devices. Basically, my department is made up of 5 people. I have 2 technicians that are actually boots on the ground in the schools. We've got one that covers Mount Lebanon School and the middle school, and one that covers the high school and Hanover Street School. We have the applications coordinator who handles our web page. And basically she does all our rostering in ClassLink. We have our system engineer, who most of you know, Tyler, and he is our guru and our master of all technology. He's the person we call to do Tier 3 support. And of course, you have the technology director. I was asked about security of our network, and these are just some devices and things that we have in place. We have the Cisco firewall in place. We have a Barracuda web security gateway, and that's also where our advanced threat protection, it goes through that device. We have antivirus software, endpoint security. We're a member of MS-ISAC, Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, where we find out threats, things that are out there. We have our Google Workspace for Education, which has a lot of security features in it. It monitors any threats that come in to people's emails, and we receive messages that there are some problems. I have GAT Shield, and that's the thing most people are interested in. That's where we can monitor what students are doing and look at their traffic. We have Veeam Backup and Spanning. Spanning is our Google backup, which we are required to have, and we can bring it back anybody's Gmail, their Google Docs, all information from that Spanning software. Right now, what we have problems with is tablets and iPads and projectors, so they're red. And I've got a red, green, yellow sensing for this. On the next page, I have all of our software that we purchase out of the technology department. Right now, the big one is Veeam. We're having to pay for our subscription to Veeam, and that's 4 different purchase orders we have to do for Veeam. And that's also where we see all the, like the Spanning, all of that stuff comes out of this budget. And then I have the inventories from the schools. I have the 4 schools, their inventory. You can take a look at that, and we can adjust how you, if you think we need to adjust our supplies and what we order. Any questions?
MJ?
Yes,
Please, Kat.
yeah,
Come close to your microphone, please.
I will, but it's kind of loud too. Excuse me.
When we go to, I guess it's the second page, and then later on in your more detailed spreadsheet, under the Chromebooks, it says yearly purchases based on average class size. So this is to mean that every year at Lebanon High School, you're looking to replace 150 Chromebooks and 5 projectors? Is that how we read that?
That is correct.
So what is the average life of a projector?
The average life of a projector is 5 to 8 years. So we aren't going to be replacing those every year, but we have a projector life cycle replacement plan where we're going to be doing so many each year for each school until we've replaced all of them with the new laser projectors.
And then I had one more question just about the backup system. So are those like chronological snapshots, or are they copies that are overwritten every time you back up? So if something is corrupt and say your new backup, would it wipe out everything, or can you go back and use a chronological snapshot from the last time you backed?
We can use a chronological snapshot. What these are meant to do is back up, like if we get hit with ransomware, we can back up the whole system and restore it from there. So that's basically why we do an off-site backup, we do a local backup, and we do, those are the 2 types of backups that we do. The local backup is done at the high school, and now the off-site backup is done at the Brunswick Naval Air Station.
Just one more question. You were about the switch closet. So was that a closet that you had to cannibalize from some other precious space at the high school, or was it
We
already
did.
an existing closet that you just made into a?
It was an existing closet. It's being shared by Greg, the, what is the state of? SRO. He's also in that closet. Okay, but it's pretty comfortable because we have air conditioning in there.
I have a question. This is a follow-up of something that came up at our education committee meeting. And I understand our current policy or procedure is that when seniors graduate, their email addresses become defunct or disabled in October of the following year. Is that correct? The year after they graduate?
Basically, we give them like 2 months and they're disabled. We've been discussing that quite a bit lately. We're gonna try to get them to build their own Google accounts and transfer all of their emails and Gmail files into that personal Google account.
Okay, that would be great. If that effort doesn't work or doesn't roll out as smoothly as we'd like it to, is it possible to have that, instead of saying we're giving you 2 more months, is it possible to say, my concern is, could we give them another year? If we're going to be backing up for 6 years anyway worth of information, would it be, what is the cost, meaning space cost or time cost or actual cost of giving them a year? Because I'm thinking especially of the people who are not going to college or not applying right away, who are taking a gap year, or who have made a lot of connections through their school accounts, right, for their school, for their career, for whatever, and we say we're done, and if they don't make a change right away in 2 months, which is, ideal, but I can see how that would not be the norm, could we also just have a standard that we extend it a little bit longer than that?
We don't like that because that uses up one of the licenses. What we've been able to do for those people is we've actually been able to turn their accounts back on.
Okay.
And they're able to get all their information out of Google Drive and all their emails.
So there is a possibility if they needed to get back in, they can.
Yes.
But standard procedure is going to be to try and get them to make their own Google
Correct.
Drives separate
Yep.
from school. Okay.
Mhm.
We'll also be bringing the devices going home with the seniors.
Right.
We're not making any great profit, and we're going to be turning them, and we just think that's good things to do, so.
That's going to take us another year because right now the seniors have the newest devices. So
We have to shift
we're
them
going to
around.
start making sure they have the oldest devices. So they're at the end of their life cycle when they graduate, and they'll be able to take those devices home.
Okay. I have one more question. Not related to that. So I just want to clarify. So in the first page of your report, you say that the schools are responsible for student devices and curriculum tech devices. So that means those are in their budget? That's where that
Correct.
lives?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
And those are the technology supply line and the technology equipment line. Which is for devices and which is that the equipment line is for devices?
That's the equipment line, that's
Okay.
for devices.
And the other is for curriculum
Now,
tech?
the other is for like printer cartridges, cables, things that don't have computer chips in them.
Okay. And they're responsible for ordering those as well?
Correct.
And those are,
Along with our help.
right, I was about to say, and that's for their devices, or for their students' devices, or for just the building's devices?
For the building's devices.
Okay. So you do give them assistance in figuring
Oh,
out
yes.
how to order that? Okay, that's it, I just wanted to clarify that.
Go ahead, Jane.
So I just, I was kind of shocked that you shared a tech person between Mount Leb and the middle school. So is that providing a lot of challenge because they're not the geography is different between the two locations? Does that person run a little thin in the tech support?
Yes, he does run a little thin. He's traveling quite a bit between the schools. If one school calls him in the middle of the day, he has to go to that school from the other school. Basically, it's all done with a ticketed system. Once the school puts that in, they should be able to respond within an hour to go from one school to the other.
Any other questions for Pete? Pete, I had a question on this, the spanning backup.
Okay?
I can see how that gives you access to user files that's backed up regularly. But you don't have any control over things that people choose to store on their local laptop drive, right?
on there.
Do you have a
We
pol-
don't
do we
really have
do we have a
local,
policy on that?
the only people that have local backup drives is the teachers, and we don't really have a policy. We back them up to the server. All the students are using Chromebooks, so there is no local drive except for Google.
Yeah, but people who do, like teachers, administrators, whoever, I mean, do we have, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that we would want people storing information on their local drive, right?
Right. We don't want people storing on their local drive. That's why we have Google, and we do all of the Active Directory stuff to our servers.
Have we articulated a policy on that? You know, telling employees, don't do this?
We have somewhat of a policy on it, and it's more our security policies of what they should do and what they shouldn't do.
Have you experienced any issues with teachers using the server backup at all in the district, or are you finding that people are using it appropriately?
They're using it appropriately. We're finding some teachers that are recording their sports teams, and a lot of space is being used up by those recordings. That's about the main thing that we're finding abuse of, is how much they're storing on the servers.
And just for clarification, come budget time, I understand the bulk of purchases are going to be in the building budgets.
Mhm.
But district-wide, are we looking at this black and white chart at the bottom of, I guess it's page 4? Is that going to constitute your district-wide estimated cost for budget purposes, or is that just background information? What do we assume everything costs?
That's background information. Most of the SAU's technology equipment comes out of what we call the lease line. And that's where we find we have enough money to do the teacher laptops, a lot of our switches, a lot of our expensive district equipment.
We've been able to keep that line steady at $180,000 every year for probably 5 years now. We basically have 3 leases going at once. So, start a new year, he'll buy stuff. We'll lease it for a 3-year period, and so we're able to do all that replacement without increasing the cost of the line item.
Oh, sorry.
And are you continuing with your program of reviewing all the various software licenses?
Oh, yes.
Weeding out what we're not using?
Mm-hmm.
Any progress made? It still seems to be a pretty lengthy list, but I understand we probably have a lot of demands.
Basically, I just reviewed all of them, and basically there was a lot of demands on it from schools of what they want in their budget or for software.
And what's this pinkish color and what's the white in these charts?
Pinkish color is just a separation on the chart.
Okay. And the rows that are white, those don't have any particular meaning?
No particular meaning. If there's nothing in it, that means nothing is being purchased against that line. Like the computer carts, the schools aren't really purchasing computer carts. We've got almost enough to furnish all of the schools.
On that same page, can you remind me, it does say computer cart for the high school for $33,006. Is that this year's budget? It's listed under next year's budget?
Those are cart computers. That is for Jason Tatu's,
Techno STEM course?
yep, STEM course.
Okay.
He's getting high-end laptops for his program.
Thank you.
Anything else for Pete?
Now,
Thank you very much, sir.
the other thing I had on here was if anybody is interested, a field trip to our server closet to see the equipment. Thank you.
We have to wait for a day, the SRO is out.
Actually, the data center is located here at the middle school. And that's where the high-end stuff, the servers, the core servers, and that's where the fiber optic lines come into and run out to all the schools. So everything is controlled at that one data center here at the middle school.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next up is the Director of Facilities update. Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Steve Mazinski, the Director of Facilities. First time, didn't sleep much last night, so bear with me.
Steve, you have to talk closer to your mic so we can,
That better?
yep, thanks.
I'm charged with the maintenance and operations of the district's facilities. I have 18 full-time employees. We have a full-time plumber, electric, HVAC, 2 general maintenance, and with that I have several janitorial custodials. All in all, I have 15 of those throughout the district. We have 4 at the Lebanon High School, 3 currently staffed at Hanover Street, 2 at Mount Webb, and we have 5 here at LMS. As with Peter, facilities is continuing to struggle with supply chain and inflation costs. We're seeing costs in excess of 15 to 20% on raw materials. A gallon of oil, is no surprise, was $2.23 last year, and this year it's $4.63. Hard to budget for that. Staffing continues to be a problem. We went through the great resignation, we call it. We do currently have 4 full-time employee positions open, 1 in the maintenance department, 2 floaters in custodial, and 2 full-timers. Yes, the projectors came in, and yes, we installed the projectors in October. Both myself and IT work very close together. Any questions thus far? Wanted to talk a little bit about the FIP. It is a living document. We tried to take a look at projects not only current in 23, but all the way out through 2040. So when we get beyond warranties on roofing and things like that, we start putting in, after warranty expires, the replacement of the roof. And we have about 283,000 square feet of roof in the district. So it's a pretty comprehensive replacement program. And what we're trying, our goal is obviously to replace them shortly after warranty expires. General rule is between 5 and 7 years after a warranty expires. I can tell you that the facilities department is constantly on the roofs verifying roof drains are clean, any organics that are on the roofs are removed quickly. Mount Leb is a perfect example. We have a great tree line in the front of that building, and we make sure that any organics that is up on that roof are removed swiftly. That's where we break it down. On page 1, we have major capital renovations. These are all of the various capital programs on the books. And that includes all of the proposed renovations that were not approved. So what we want to do is we want to keep them, we want to keep them on the spreadsheet, so we're aware of, hey, this is what's in the queue.
Just adding to that, to give a bit of background, I kind of heard from the last board meeting that people were interested in keeping those on the radar. So I did contact Paul Marinese and Preston Hunter from Ekman to give us guesstimates or their best estimates of what those projects might cost. But without bidding them out, we're really not quite sure. And we're not getting the guarantees of we're going to keep this cost for a year anymore. We cross our fingers that the price stays the same from when we order it to the delivery time. But the numbers that are in here haven't even been updated since the Finance and Facilities meeting. And I also wanted to let you know, just proactively, I didn't know if people were going to talk a little bit about interest in putting any of the projects that have been removed back. And so in order to save time for Saturday, Preston and Paul are available via Zoom to answer those kinds of questions this evening. So that gives you time to process and think things through before Saturday's meeting as well. So thanks so much, Steve. I just wanted to add that before you went to page 2.
Thank you. At the recommendation of the Finance and Facilities, we broke it out into buildings. They're all extremely important to the district, but it's kind of nice to look at it in chunks rather than switching back and forth. On page 2, we have the continuation of the major capitals, and then Mount Leb will kick in on page 3. Everything on page 3 is associated with the Mount Leb School. Classroom renovations, removing wainscot in hallways, carpeting, library carpet replacement, paving, bathroom renovations, boys and girls. Moving on to page 4.
I'll just mention page 3, top of it, the classroom renovations. Steve was very proactive in reaching out to the contractor, Estes and Bells, who's been doing the classroom renovations over the years for Mount Leb and Hanover Street. So those are the best estimates that they can give us at this time moving forward. And so you'll see those in the budget. We talk about those every year.
Thank you, Joanne. Moving on to page 4, we're looking at Hanover Street. Again, more classrooms, more bathrooms, fire panel. We're getting filled up with the renovations on the fire alarm panel. Typical fire alarm panel, 20 to 30-year lifespan, but with our expansions, we're outgrowing it. Excuse me. Page 5, top of page 5, again, is Hanover Street. And then we're moving down into the middle school. Middle school is 12 years old. We're not seeing much on the Lebanon middle school, and because of that, but we are still planning those repairs in the roofs, in the bleachers, and the refurbishing of the floor in the gym. So going out beyond 2028 and providing a number there, I think it'd be, yeah, exactly, ma'am. It'd be it wouldn't be a good tool. Page 6, top, we're still at the Lebanon Middle School. As you can see, library carpet replacement. You'll notice that in the year 2026, we put $1 in there. And all that is, folks, is a placeholder. We will not know what that price is based upon the inflation of materials until we bid it out. I prefer to be proactive. 2025, I'm going to start making phone calls and find out what carpeting is going to cost us in 2026. I'm always trying to look 6 months in advance. So we're going into winter, and I'm looking at summer now. Moving down to Lebanon High School, we have a generator switch. The generator switch is actually an automatic generator switch. In the loss of power, we would automatically transfer over. It's more for building preservation, keeping the heat on in the building. Continuing to move down, you're going to see the roof replacement on the wood shop of the Lebanon High School. Again, you're going to see that dollar. We're starting to reach out to DACO and Melanson to get those costs. Continuing on to page 7, riding floor machines, the machines that the folks are cleaning our floors with, those are pretty pricey machines, and I'm trying to get us onto a normalized replacement rather than 3 or 4 machines in a year. Moving down to the cafeteria table replacement, those tables are 10 years old. What we're finding now is that we can't get repair parts from them. And rather than come to you folks and ask for $50,000 to replace all the tables in the cafeteria, I'm trying to push. We replace the worst ones, the first 5, and then we do 5 every year after. There's about 30 tables in that cafeteria. And if we were able to get into a situation where we did not need those tables in that particular cafeteria, perhaps we could take that money and replace tables here. We're getting to the end of the life on the tables. Moving down to district-wide, at the bottom of page 7, top line, we're trying to get into a vehicle maintenance program. We do a fair amount of plowing, and we have 3 trucks, a flatbed, 2 tractors, and those can get expensive, in excess of $60,000. So. Top of page 8, we have the John Deere tractor. That just so happens to be the tractor that is here. And as you can see, we're going right out to 2028 on that. Moving on to the SAU. It's a great building. It's got great bones. No question about it. But it's got some age to it, and there are some things that we need to address. I reached out to engineering, John Pinney down in Chester, Vermont. He provided us with a great overview of replacing the boiler with existing. He also gave us converting from oil to propane, converting from steam to water, and water to water. So there's a whole host of options that we can take a look at there. But the boiler's coming due. Again, you see that dollar noted in there. I don't want to throw out any type of number because it wouldn't be fair to you folks. But again, moving down, the UST tank removal would be part of the boiler. I mean, you can't do one without the other. There's a large environmental concern, and that UST tank should come out at the same time. Converting Honeywell controls, window replacement. Those windows are huge, and I would not even venture a cost on to replace them. Should we? Yes. Anything we do to improve the building envelope will ultimately save us heating costs. Any questions so far? Sorry, I'm rambling here, but
You're not rambling at all.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Under HSS, so wherever that is, line 2, under Hanover Street. So that's talking about upgrading the back parking lot and drainage, but I know that when we were talking about renovations in general, we were talking a lot about the front parking lots of Hanover Street and the high school, and I don't see that anywhere, either under Hanover Street or under the high school or under district. So, but that is, we know that there was site work to be done there, and that was all taken out of the renovation, right? But we,
Yes, we don't have a cost estimate for that yet.
but that's still one of the,
Correct, that was not part of the current project and should be added here because we're going to continue to have drainage issues. We also are still using Bixby lot for the students. We
Right.
talked about moving them, and you're correct, in the back, what was, I think, a tennis court and something else is not going to hold up. So Paul and Preston, I emailed them to ask them for an estimate for the site work to be able to put it into the FIP.
so if we could make that a separate line, either under Hanover Street or the high school or in the district, just because I think, since it's not here anywhere else, I don't want us to forget that part as well. And then I had a question on page, hold on. So under the high school, LHS number 1, that generator transfer switch, and it says confirm with Tim on the funding source. We had talked about that at Finance and Facilities, but we didn't know if that was included in the current budget or not.
I do not believe it is.
Okay.
I have to go back and search last year's budget notes. Well, this is part of the actual operating budget we're in. I have a list of projects. And that one doesn't strike a bell, but I could be mistaken. We have a list. I can go back and check.
Okay, yeah, can we just check that, because we weren't
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it's written as if it were, but I don't know if we didn't know if that was true or not.
But I guess along those lines, if the generator is owned by the fire department, why are we paying for the switch and not the city if it's because it's their emergency shelter when they pay for everything?
I guess all I'd say to that is I actually don't know the sort of the backstory on that generator being there, except that I know that it's there for it. So it's a good question to ask. I don't.
Or is there even some kind of federal grant money to pay for the
Yeah.
switch because it's a designated emergency location?
Those are good questions. Yeah.
Is this something we could look at before our budget meeting?
Well, it's
Since it's going to be in the operating budget.
If it is.
It's designated as being in the operating budget we're actually in right now. It's not in the budget that's
Oh,
being
it's the
presented.
current budget.
Oh,
Well, then the question is, when it says FY23, that's the year we're in now.
and we don't know if it's in this
Oh, yeah,
current
yeah, yeah.
budget?
I have to go back and look at the list from last
Okay.
year's budget. It has not, if it is, it has not been acted on. Obviously, we had some vacancies in the facilities department, so if it is in there, then we'll act on it. If it's not, then I think we can research the funding sources, whether the city should pay or all these questions we just asked about. But it's not in the budget binders for next year, FY24.
I had a question, sort of an organizational question, I guess. I'm just wondering why some of the Hanover Street projects are listed under major capital renovations, not in the Hanover Street section. Is there something
I think those,
something I'm missing there?
I think those projects are the ones that were taken out of the renovations for the bond, right? The ones that were originally part of the bond proposal and were taken out? Is that?
Except for the track.
Except for the track.
And what happened to the items we took out of the Mount Lebanon project?
I think they're,
Are they appearing somewhere else? Because I don't see them.
No, it's number 1 on the major capital renovations.
and number 10.
number one.
That's what we're doing.
That's already, but I'm referring to the things that we took out.
Number 10.
That would be the administrative suite.
Here it is, okay.
Secure entrance.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, and I think the thought was to keep that all together in case, for some stroke of luck, the construction came in cheaper than it was estimated, that they could be added to the project at the end.
Okay.
And then I have questions on, I think for probably Preston and maybe Paul about some of those projects, if we don't have other questions for Steve, since he's sitting here.
Just to get back, just for my own benefit, because I was distracted when this question was asked, where is the paving in front of high school and University School here? It doesn't.
Doesn't, and
Yeah.
I asked for a cost estimate, and when we have it, we'll add it in.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
I would just like to say Stephen has been an awesome partner. He's been here about a month. He jumped right in the deep end with.
Thank you.
With no reservation, so I appreciate it.
Oh, I did have one other question.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, I slightly start to take the rise. When you were talking about the SAU boiler project, you talked about the Penny Engineering, the information, or whoever, this was the information that we had like 2-3 years ago, right? The proposal for
That is.
switching things over as part of the boiler replacement.
That is correct, and I reached out to him just this week to, let's take a fresh look at it with, inflation. Obviously, the numbers that were provided are not going to be accurate.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure there wasn't anything new. It was just a matter of cost.
Yeah.
The basic outline was really the same. It's
Yeah.
just- okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Before we switch over, I just want to connect it with the paperwork that you picked up for questions about the renovation project. The first one, so you might have picked it up, A1, that's the overview of Lebanon High School and the Hanover Street School campus. The kind of yellowish tan are the projects moving forward, the ones that are kind of bluish gray, or ones that were under consideration. At Finance and Facilities, we talked about the cost of the stage and why it was so expensive. And then on the drive home, I had a conversation with Paul and remembered that in order to decrease the cost, we actually did decrease the size of that building. So that big gray square isn't going to be built. And if the stage is built, you have to expand the thing as the space, as Steve asked, the steel beams and all of that, plus what the expectations are to build the stage now. So I wanted F&F members to know. I heard you hold up, but I realized that, and that's why I wanted to have this visual, because I think it's complicated without it. And then the second graphic that I'm in this packet. Sorry, I had to take a second. So this is the right-hand side of the Mount Lev project now. So you can see where the kitchen is along the front, and then the expanded multi-purpose room in the back. And then the back page, or the second page of that, we should have forgotten, we haven't talked about it in a while, but a major part of the renovation was the safety and security of the front entrance, which due to cost we had to remove. And so it would have pulled the front of the building forward, giving administrative space. Right now the principal has a small space, the assistant principal does not have a space. She works off of a counter in the hallway when you come in, and sometimes works in a conference room if it's not being used. And then it would be pulled out and more visible. So we hadn't seen it in a while. I know myself, I like to visually see things, so I put them in. And Paul and Preston are here and can unmute themselves if you have any questions.
I do have a question, a couple. The first one is probably for Paul. when we talked about this when you were last here, we talked about that building the 4 classrooms off of the end of Hanover Street was useful because that would provide space for people to move to while some of the other renovations were happening. So I just wanted to know from you, which of these other renovation pieces, if we were to do them, would be dependent on having those 4 classrooms finished, and how long do we anticipate the 4 classrooms taking, and then sort of when would we be able to move into those other projects if we did them? Are you there?
He's muted. Maybe he's muted.
So, Pete, they're coming out of my laptop. We just need to fix that, but we can hear you.
Barely.
I can, but it's coming out of my device, so nobody else can hear you. Pete's working on it.
I don't think you can speak loudly enough. Hold on.
Hold on 1 second, we'll fix it, and then we'll get back to you. Thanks. Hey, Paul, can you say test and we can see if it's working now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so the spaces that would need to have the 4 classrooms available in order to be renovated are the ones that would be displacing a significant number of people from their current locations in the building. So that's mostly special services. That's probably the primary one, because we'd be taking over that whole one wing of the existing building to renovate, and those people would need to move somewhere. And the second one, to a lesser extent, is the main office renovation, depending on how far we can go with that. So obviously, if we're tearing apart the general office, those people need to move somewhere. That's a little trickier because moving the general office is a little harder than moving classrooms and special services offices. So it's those 2 spaces mostly. The library addition could be done pretty much with the library staying in place where it is now. And the nurse could be expanded more or less where she is now, or else during the summer. That's not a terribly big project, so that could probably be done working around the summer schedule. So it's really special services and the main office renovations.
And what about the stairway replacement?
Yeah, that's something that would probably have to happen during the summer, just because it's tearing apart kind of the main pinch point in the whole building, so we couldn't really get in there and do big construction in that area with school in session.
Okay, thank you.
Rest of you, correct me if I'm wrong on any of those things.
No, I think I agree with everything you said.
Any other questions for Paul, and while we have him on the line?
So yes. Also, so I understand the cost now for the stage, because that's going to be new construction of building that is no longer in the plan. Is that the same reasoning for the library addition costs, because that bump out is new construction, and it's just significantly more than the other things, so I'm just wondering if that's why.
So that's driving most of the additional costs, and the new construction is more expensive than the renovation space. And a larger space too. The stage is the largest of any of those items on your list, so that's it, yeah.
Okay.
It's not just literally the stage, it's the stage plus a pretty good sized ramp to get up to the stage, plus a secondary egress out of the stage, So there's more to it than just the stage itself. There's accessory spaces that have to get built along with that.
And is this a figure that we have for the MLS renovation, so line 10 on this plan, $1,398,000, is that the most accurate, most recent numbers? Because it wasn't on our list of finance and facilities, so I just wanted to know if we were looking at the most recent numbers for that or the past numbers. Jay?
No, I think that was the latest one that had been circulated within our group.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, would you mind resharing the FIP with Paul and Preston, and we'll just triple check our numbers all together, and we'll also add the site work in there for the presentation on the budget? I appreciate that, thank you.
Well, go ahead.
Can I just ask for a clarification? I'm not sure if this is, who this is for, because I wasn't at the last meeting. But on the MLS plan where there's this kind of diagonal front entrance, this work is alternate number 1. Can someone just clarify what that means for the front entrance of LMS? Sorry, not LMS, MLS, Mount Lab.
Well,
There's the
I don't
blue.
recall, Paul, if we had different alternates for the entrance. This to me is the one that was going forward. Do you happen to remember?
So this
Yeah,
is,
it sounds to me like that's the main office expansion area, and that was identified as alternate number 1.
That was given during the first bidding. When we bid the project the first time through, it was an alternate, so it probably has that name attached to it for that reason.
okay. But this is the design that's going forward, is that how I'm understanding it?
That's the design, but the main entrance was completely removed because of cost.
Right, so this doesn't exist, I mean.
That's not gonna go forward
Design
unless it
that
gets done.
would have gone
Kind of
forward.
confused why
We're looking at it because we were asked at Finance and Facilities to put into that FIP any parts of the renovation projects that people thought we were gonna get with the bond or with ESSER and had to be removed. So we have to redesign the Mount Lab multipurpose room and cooking kitchen, that's a whole new design, and in that, the front entrance is part of the project.
Oh, and I just realized I probably interrupted you before you got to one of the last questions I had, which was when would we anticipate those 4 classrooms being available? Like, let's say we're starting whenever we're planning on starting, when would the 4 classrooms be livable, usable?
Yep, so the exact sequencing of how we're going to kind of rotate through these 3 additions hasn't been completely confirmed, but it's less than a year of work to build those 4 classrooms. So our hope would be to turn it over to you to occupy for use in towards the spring of the following year. There will probably be some finished site work that'll be needed before the city will issue a certificate of occupancy. We won't be able to do final paving until the warm weather, those kinds of things. So, but yeah, it'll probably be in that time frame. But thinking about the renovation work, similar to Paul's comment on the stairwell, you may not want to tackle starting that renovation work until the summer anyways, just because of disruption.
And if you did that, starting those, like let's say you were doing the special services, special education services space in the summer, would that project be something that could be finished in the summer, or would that be a summer into fall? I mean, how long would we anticipate those taking? Rough estimates.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, we would certainly try like heck to get them done during the summer. And I think just looking at the plan, there's some areas that are going to be less complicated, less work that could probably be completed. Looking at the administration area, for instance, there's quite a bit of work there, removing the old vault and HVAC, electrical, plumbing, moving bathrooms and things like that. So those kinds of activities tend to take a little longer. So there may be some portions that would spill into the beginning of the school year, but again, by the time the kids come back, we're working on finishes, we're working on less disruptive things, not, going through demolition and, power shutdowns and that sort of thing.
So in your estimation then, the special services, the nursing, the stairwell, and maybe even the library addition, those would all be ones that would be less complicated, less time consuming than the front office renovation or the cafeteria stage renovation?
The stairwell is actually probably one of the most complicated areas.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, that one is it's a small space, but it involves quite a lot of work. But yeah, the special services area, like across from the library, I'd say that in the nurses areas seem achievable during the summer, especially if we're set up and planned and everybody's ready to go as soon as the last day of school passes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on facilities generally?
Can I just ask a very, and I'm not sure who would answer this, but you just talked about things that are more versus less complicated. I'm just wondering, something like the cafeteria, is that going to be prioritized in the construction process because that's an immediate need versus the renovations, which are obviously needed, but something like the cafeteria is like adding to quality of life at HSS? I don't know, are we at the stage where there's kind of like a construction priority? Who makes those decisions?
So the rotation was to focus on Hanover Street first, the 4 additional classrooms and the cafeteria, and the high school second, because talking with Ian, they can function, and they, as a collaborative campus, think that Hanover Street would be the first to be completed, and then go over to the high school, do the entrance and the band room and things like that. I don't know the time frame to do everything, but we at least had a conversation exactly to that. What are the priorities on that campus, and what projects would be done first?
And I would anticipate too that we would have all 3 projects going at once. It's really a question of where do we start, I think. And some of that's going to depend on things like moving site utilities. We know that we have sewer line, for instance, that's going to run underneath the classroom addition. We need to get more direction from the engineers. Does that need to move before we start that? There's also some drainage and other things that are going to be impacted by the cafeteria. So there's a number of factors that come into it, and we certainly want to make sure that we understand the priorities from the school district standpoint, so that we're trying to accommodate the areas that are highest priority for you first.
President, I want to thank you very much for all of your teamwork. I know that we're communicating 5 to 7 times a day, so I appreciate the way that things are proceeding, and I'm actually going to show the Mount Web drone information tonight as part of my superintendent update, if I can get it to work. So thank you very much. Have a good night.
Perfect time, thank you.
Good night.
Moving on to the budget. Mr. Tim. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun, I'm so anxious to do this massive book. Superintendent update. Sorry, Jim.
I was just going to let that fly. So I'm going to try to see if I can get something to work. It's interesting being on the superintendent for a while. Things kind of circle back around. So we used to do celebrations and have photos when people came into this space, and then different board chairs had different perceptions, so we kind of stopped that. And after the last meeting, I love to celebrate things, and thought this fit really well with the conversation tonight. So at Mount Web, the renovation project's moving forward in a timely manner. Meetings continue every 2 weeks to keep everyone updated. Monthly updates are sent to the board, and I'm in communication with the city regarding the project and permitting. And I'm not quite sure if this will work, but I'll try. This is a video of Mount Web School That's the drone footage. Where it started off, I'm gonna have to turn my music on. Takes a little bit of, it's only 40 seconds long, but this might be a 3-hour drone video. Do you think it'll pick it up, Pete? Because it's really short and tiny.
It's buffering now. Hopefully it loads.
Recording stop. Recording in progress.
Let me see it. Let me just back it. 1 second. This is not my.
Show us again.
Yes, now that we got this down.
There it goes.
Here we go. Okay, so I thought I would share that. I have to turn that on. Also, an update in regard to the high school in Hanover Street. The drawings are about 40% complete. The test borings are scheduled for the end of this month, which will lead to a geotechnical engineering report. And as I mentioned, we're hoping that the soils are in good shape. For P&N, we have agreement with LSS members, and they are going to be having a meeting to ratify the LSS CBA. We'll have some conversations about that in the non-meeting. For policy, I've reviewed policies and we'll be sending the agenda out. For finance and facilities, I participated in the meeting focused on the FIP. I revised the FIP with Steve and contacted Marinese and Ekman to obtain rough estimates for cost and sections of the renovation projects that were moved due to overall costs, and invited them to be here tonight to try to be proactive about the budget conversation. Also attended yesterday Harvard Area Career Tech Center. We had conversations about work keys, which is an assessment tool that they use. And we also, I shared with them, I wanted to get our draft calendar going early this year. I appreciate Bonnie and Shini Young for their help with that. So they give us their perfect calendar, so we're going to compare the two. They are going to bring theirs forward to the board, and I usually bring ours forward to the board in January. I've been in communication with Karen regarding special education and 504 matters. Meetings with Karen Dubois, who's our director of ECIA, and Miranda Collins and Diane Estes. I met with Karen Dubois and Mary Skivington regarding the upcoming math meeting focused on the pilot programs, and met with Bonnie Robinson regarding curriculum meetings and the draft calendar. Facilitated an initial conversation with SAU and school administrators regarding Lebanon School District opportunities for enrichment and acceleration. We began to look at defining enrichment and acceleration in our schools and just talking about what each school is actually doing. I facilitated the SAU office meeting and attended the safety meeting and our SALT meetings. I coordinated school meetings with Deo Moano. If you recall, he worked with us on the equity audit, and so now he has come in to visit schools. I facilitated the budget meetings and met with Tim, SAU and school administrators on the proposed budget. I've been in communication and coordination with the Upper Valley Business Alliance Executive Director Tracy Hutchins to support the Upper Valley BIPOC Winter Centennial Celebration, which will be December 10th from 10 to 2 p.m. at the Lebanon Middle School. Families are invited to shop for warm winter coats, socks, and other items which will be donated at no charge for children, and enjoy fun activities, food, and festivities. It's sponsored by Dartmouth Hitchcock and Alice Peck Day Memorial Hospital. I also think this fits very well with our focus on DEI as a district. I facilitated a meeting regarding the legal matter, and once again, when Steve and Lil talked about the platforms that Monongac had used, I'm familiar with the platforms. They were coming into Hanover, and when I came in as superintendent, I about them, but we were really focused heavily, as Pete can remember, on Google conversion, and everyone's like, that's what we're gonna do. So I was pleased to see that that was a suggestion. I contacted them, I let Tim know that we're gonna go move forward with that. The cost is about $8,500 a year with an upstart fee. It takes them about 12 weeks to get their platform running. It's gonna take us months. What they do is they give you a template, and then you copy paste your information into that template. And then I also would really like to use it for our agendas, rather than have people go through our web page and then down and then click and then click. I always liked that format, so I'm excited to do that. I talked to the person today. We're going to do some trainings in probably December or January, and then start putting our information onto that. So it's an opportunity for me to bring back an idea, so I appreciate that. Keep bringing the ideas my direction. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now on to Tim's juicy budget.
Not yet. So as you see in your packet first, we're going to talk about Chapter 4, which is food, free and reduced meals, food service, and special education. And don't ask me how we ended up pairing these things together over time. Karen is here to talk about any questions you might have from the special ed portion. Let me find my slides. So just a review, we offer breakfast and lunch. There's a fresh fruit and vegetable program, which is a separate program of the USDA that you may or may not qualify, you being a school, for. Mount Leb qualified years ago and then didn't for a little bit, so they've been carrying $14,000 in their budget for the fresh fruit and vegetable program right along now. But the last couple of years, they qualified again, and Hanover Street qualifies too. So in the 2 elementary schools, the fresh fruit and vegetable program is up and running and is part of the food service program with money from the federal government. Our food service program is run by, we have a contract with Fresh Picks. Well, it says Cafe Services, they changed their name to Fresh Picks. Some schools do it in-house. We have a contract, which of course it works really well, but I put this out there because I always hear sort of some misinformation once in a while about the food service program, the contractor making money or hoarding the money to make it. All your money that you pay for food goes, whether we get it from the federal government or you pay for your lunches, it goes through the SAU, through our treasurer, through our bank. We pay Fresh Picks a fee to run the food service program, but all your money never leaves the district as far as the oversight of the money. We do set the price, but again, there's federal guidelines, so there's a price tool on another slide coming up. We'll talk about prices a little bit. So you're only allowed to be so far away from certain guidelines from the federal government. So they give you a tool, and then you put your pre-reduced price that they give you in it and some other things, and it says you must charge between here and here. Sometimes it's a big jump. The only caveat you have is that if it's up, the most you can be forced to raise it any given year is 10 cents. Sometimes it comes out to 25, 30 cents difference, and we'll raise it 10 cents. But you have to raise. If it says raise it, you got to raise it. Food service accounts must end the year in the black. So when you finish your accounts, but usually when the auditors come in, and if there's any issue, they'll make a journal entry from your general fund to food service fund. We usually finish in the black. Remember last year I was warning that we were going to be way off. We ended up being about $58,000 off. So that was the first and only big transfer we've done since I've been here. We did one $4,000 a couple years before that, but generally we're in the black. On the second page, just the stats of how many breakfasts and lunches we serve. This is for last year. The bottom slide is comparing the prior year 2021 to 21-22. You'll remember in 2021 we had we had half days there in the fall as we came back from being closed down for COVID. So that's when we had a fund transfer of $58,000. The main reason for that was we had half the lunches being served between basically October and January. See, the revenue this year was really healthy, but on the next page, you see our expenses were significant. But you'll see that our revenues exceeded expenditures by about $130,000, I believe. So we finished in the black. That's important. Part of our, if you remember the discussion last May, part of our discussion with the Mount Lab project was that we would use the food service fund to purchase about $100,000 worth of equipment for the new kitchen. So I'm happy to say that that fund has that $100,000 in it. As I knew it, by then I knew it would. There's our prices for the, that should be the 21, 22 year, 22, 23 year. But that's our prices this year. And that's what I referenced. They, as you know, the last 2 years, meals have been free for everyone. Now we're back to our normal free and reduced program. And if you're a paid meal, these are the prices you pay. I have the year, the last time we had you pay, which was 19, I guess, it was $1.50 versus $1.75 in pre-K to 4, for example. So it's up a quarter from that. And again, I think that's the maximum you can go up. I'll do the last one on food service and see if you have any questions. And I'm sure you know, so we encourage everyone to send back a free lunch application. We send them to every house, at least once, usually multiple times. We try to get them in their hands. They fill it back. The process is they fill it in, it comes back, it goes to one person in my office, and she uses a chart that's approved by the USDA to see if you qualify, and then the random sample of that is reviewed by me. No one knows who is a free and reduced lunch except for the food service director and someone in my office. It's very tightly held. 317 students were free and reduced lunch last year. I believe this is last year. That's 19% of our population. The state average is 20%. And we got that average, I think, off the web. Any questions about food service?
So I just have a question on the chart that shows the number of meals shown. You have an asterisk next to Lebanon High School, and I'm wondering if that somehow explains why there's so fewer lunches at Lebanon High School.
No, actually, that includes the summer program meal. So when we had the summer program where we offered meals during the summer for a couple of years, I just put an asterisk next there because it was hard to write it all out. So we had last summer, not the summer of 22, but the summer of 21, we had summer program at the Hanover Street High School campus, and we offered meals through a different USDA program, but those meals are wrapped up in those numbers. That's what it's trying to say.
I have a question. With the addition of cooking kitchens at Hanover Street, I mean, a bigger cafeteria at Hanover Street and cooking kitchen at Mount Leb, do we anticipate our food costs going up? And do we also then anticipate more meals to make up for that, or we just anticipate more costs and less income?
I don't think it's going to change too much at Hanover Street. We're already preparing meals over there. We're not planning, it's a serving kitchen, so there's already people at the high school cafeteria who are dedicated to serving the Hanover Street kids. It's just going to get the kids in their own space. But at Mount Leb, yeah, we're going to have to, we have a full kitchen. We're going to have to, or Fresh Bricks is going to have to hire some staff, and that flows through the district. And we've had the discussion several times. The theory is you then sell more meals because they'll be, produced in that building and hotter and stuff. I mean, that's the theory, but it'll prove out. But certainly the cost will be higher because we're going to have, I'd have to ask Fresh Bricks how many more people right now. I think there's 2 people over there. I might have to go to a third. That'd be a conversation for the food service directors when it gets time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. They also raise their rates, their wages to this. We don't tell Fresh Picks necessarily what to charge, what to pay their staff, but they did raise their rates over the last year to attract more help, which is also driving costs up. So.
So on the free and reduced lunch applications, you said you send it to every household multiple times. Is there any benefit to the district of having someone fill out the form even if they don't? If they know they're not going to qualify for free and reduced lunch? Because I thought I remembered once upon a time in the daycare system that they still got credit for something if someone filled out the form, even if they didn't qualify.
It's not a benefit to the district if you don't qualify. And so, just being logical, if you know that if you're really like super sure that you don't qualify, then it would probably be a waste of your time. But we're worried about people who think they might not qualify, or maybe they, are a little proud and they think they don't want to know if they're free and reduced lunch. Like missing, if you're free and reduced eligible and we don't know about it, that does hurt the district because we get money from the state for free and reduced numbers. So it is important for us to capture everybody we can. But, if you're a multimillionaire, yeah, it'll just be a waste of time, The tax rate slide, when I put that in, I didn't update it for the 2022 because I didn't have the tax rate, so it actually just came out today. So that's just some historical information. I will update that in the near future. And I think in 2020 there was a reevaluation. That's why the valuation jumped up so much and why the taxes went down. You'll see, I guess a little preview, you'll see the education piece per 1,000 will go down in your tax bills this year on a per 1,000 basis.
Tim, before you move on, I have a question about this. So the rate per 1,000 for 2021 is 13.20. You're right. While we're sitting here, I just got from the city, the Department of Revenue Administration has signed off on the numbers that we saw earlier today, and they're the same. And the local education rate is going to 1192.
Right.
Now, as you know, the whole city's just been reassessed, and people are looking at a significant property tax increases. So even though the tax rate is down to 1192, the December tax bills is based on a larger assessment. So it's a long lead up to my question. Does this mean that we're going to be getting more money in the district?
We're going
to be collecting more money.
We collect exactly what the voters approve of collecting. And so on the tax rate papers, we're collecting from local taxes, $32,626,000. So we're getting exactly what the voters approved in March, minus the revenues that come from the state. I had a call with DRA before they set a tax rate saying this is what you're going to get for special ed aid, this is what you're going to get for, we even get a little bit of money for the federal forest funds. This is what you're going to get. Do the simple math, and you're going to raise out of our budget that was approved for this year, which is I think 46 million all in, including all the grants. You're going to raise 32 million locally, and so we're not getting any more money. We're getting exactly what was approved in March, and it's just divided over a different denominator.
So what's going to happen? I mean, I don't. Does that mean that this new figure of 1192 is designed to generate the same amount of revenue based on the new assessment?
Correct.
Is the idea?
Correct. So you see last year it was 1320 for a smaller budget, but I think last year's number was $30 million we had to collect. So the 1320 was divided into 2.2 billion to come up with our $30 million. Now it dropped to 1192, but the valuation is now 2.7 billion. So less per thousand, but more money in property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
It's a wash. Productive question. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we now have a special education piece, and these, I'm presenting them tonight, but Karen was nice enough to come along because these numbers came from her office. 227 students are in with IEPs, 16.7% of the Lebanon school district population. There's 14 out of districts, which is 3 less than last year. There's 9 of those 14. 9 were placed by the district, and they're all in a day placement, no residential. There are 5 placed by the court, and there's a cap what we pay. So if the court says it's a day, and it's 30 grand a year, we pay the whole thing. If the court says it's residential and it's 300 grand a year, there's a cap of, I think that's in another slide, it's rough $60,000 or so, and that's what we pay, and the state pays the rest. And you can see, I'm not gonna read you all those, insults your reading intelligence. But that's what we're managing in special ed.
I think it's important to note that a few years ago, when Tim Coomer was here, we had a very large number of court placements that were unanticipated, and that was part of the reason for increasing the special ed reserve fund. And we just don't know year from year if we're gonna experience that again, but that definitely was an impact.
Yeah, there was 10 of them, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have in your, what our capital, our special ed reserve fund currently has.
It was in chapter 3, which is in your binder, so you can refer back to
Is
it.
that
I think it's 1.5.
1.5, thank you.
Special education aid, it's designed to offset costs of particularly high cost placements. It's always paid in the next fiscal year, so we're getting it paid. When I talked to DRA, I think we're getting roughly $207,000. When he was just asking about the local revenue we're raising, one of the non-local revenue pieces is special education aid, and our number this year is $207,000. In the past, we've gotten almost $400,000. So it's bad in that it's less, but it's good in that that means we need less reimbursement. You can see if the cost is above the cap, then you get refunded. And so Karen's estimate is $169,482 for next year. And the last slide, you can see the cap for 21-22 is $50,000, and the 22-23 cap has not been released. The cap, that's said, anything above that, the state picks up. Do you have any questions on special ed? Karen's eager to answer questions.
I have a question. We didn't talk about special education transportation costs in this at all. Is this on another, do we ever talk about that in our chapters?
You mean costs we pay to transport students for special ed? Well, in the 2700 lines in the district-wide budget, there is 2722 is special ed transportation. I wasn't here for that last week, but I'll be honest that we don't point it out to you, but it is certainly in there and you can look at it. We budget what we did last year, and it's mostly, and there's a fuel line and there's a wage line, so we have a couple buses that are dedicated for special education, and so we can track the wages of the drivers who drive it. But we don't have a lot of outside costs. I think Karen is hiring some contractors now. That's kind of new recently, but yeah.
When I got here, we did have some contracted drivers. We still do. Paula has managed to find another bus driver to help reduce those costs. The costs for kids who are placed out of district, the tuition sometimes includes transportation for some of the placements. So some of that is caught up in the numbers that you just looked at for the out-of-district kids.
Okay.
We're allowed to lump those costs together.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah.
Don't go away quite yet. We had talked previously about the age limit increasing for kids
Right.
who qualify for services. Has that already happened, or is that coming?
Well, we have to plan for it right now because it's effective in July.
Okay.
And so we've already accounted for that for the students that we think might be staying longer, yes.
And what sort of impact?
Or a student who's staying longer this year.
What sort of impact is that having on your budget?
I would say it's not as big an impact here as it is in other locations. We do not have that many students at that age range. But it will increase. Right now, I think we have 2 kids. And it depends. I can't say too much because
No,
I can't
understand.
identify
I
to students.
that.
But under the circumstances of the families that we have now, we have 2 families, two students that are going to be staying.
Okay.
But then other students who are coming along potentially could stay longer depending on their programs. Right.
I was just wondering if we were going
Yeah.
to see a significant.
I don't think it's significant, no.
Okay.
No.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else for Karen?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the last thing is, in our tradition, we don't Saturday is for the day to duke it out. So this is just really about introducing the book. I think you've all gotten these before. So it's broken down into schools, anything past a district-wide, DW and SAU. I think of Arthur when I see DW. DW and SAU, anything past that, those tabs that say student services, technology, and facilities, those numbers are built into the other, but so that's there for your reference, but it's not an add-on. The key real budget summary is under the budget information tab, and you'll see a memo that I prepared. It says the things we have asked for that are additions. You'll see the tax rate impact on page number 2 on this proposal. I would point out that this budget that's 23-24 that we're working on is the first year of the full bond payment that was approved in March. So that is a $1.2 million increase to the budget. I would also say that I just got our actual healthcare rates yesterday evening, right after I printed stuff. So I didn't change anything, but on Saturday, you'll have the healthcare rates are going to be 8% instead of 10%. A rough calculation is about $125,000 less. That's rough. I'm going to do the math for real before Saturday. So I'll give you an update on Saturday with that change. I think there might be a change from Peter. He referenced to me a reduction, but all the reductions you might have will be presented to you before you start on Saturday. I won't put out new building by building budgets because what'll change is, basically those healthcare lines. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is that there'll be 3 separate warrant articles for the 3 separate collective bargaining agreements that'll be added on. So in this budget, the only raises in here is LEA, and I did put assumed a raise for the bus drivers, but the physical staff of the SAU, looks like, I think we're going to do that Saturday. We're going to have a meeting about what the raises would be for the SAU staff, and that would be added to this too. What are your questions?
You will, I understand that the lag and LSS increases are not in the budget because there's some warrant articles. I assume when you do your summary sheet, you include that in some way so we can see
Yes.
the overall.
You'll see, actually,
impact of the tax rate.
you're a good wingman. That was perfect setup. On the summary sheet, right after the budget memo, there's a summary of expenditures and calculated revenues. The actual breakdown of revenues is in the revenue tab, but on the summary sheet, the top box is expenditures, the middle box is the budget minus the outside revenue, so we're predicting $13.5 million of non-local revenue. And the bottom box is a representation of what the tax rate impact of all the different warrant articles would be as I know it. And we're going to talk a little bit about lag, I think, tonight. So I think I got the numbers right from, ironically, I missed both lag and LSS on the final meeting, but I think I have the right spreadsheets. So you can see that based on the new property evaluations, LSS would be, actually I have to check to make sure I use the new number, but 16 cents for LSS, a penny for the administrative assistants, and 3 cents for lag. So that's what I try to do there, and I'll update this on Saturday as we change things.
And one other question I have, Tim, for that Saturday meeting, how much of our books are going to be available for the public and when?
Well,
Sorry, Dick, can you say that louder? I couldn't hear you.
I said for looking ahead to our Saturday budget meeting, of course, so the public, my question is, how much of these spreadsheets, the information in the book is going to be available to the public either at the meeting or before?
Well, I'll have a binder ready at the office right now. What we've done in the past is we've put everything in a Google Drive that's attached to the web page. And I get that, I usually do that after the budget session, to be honest with you, but it is the budget that you guys deliberate is a public document, so it needs to be readily available. I don't know if I can get that done before the budget meeting or not, but I can certainly see if Tammy can help me.
Okay, but, so, right now, though, if someone wanted to get down and actually look at some lines, that have to show up and look at the book.
Yeah, yeah, I just literally
And
got
that's
this.
what we've done in the past.
Right.
To make sure, my sense is there may be a little more interest this year. One never knows. Yeah, Jane.
Can I just clarify, so in that summary sheet where you have the estimated $1.18 per thousand as the total impact, so that would be on top of, say, the baseline starting is at $11.92 or whatever that new rate is, and that would be another $1.18 on top of that, okay.
Correct. The only caveat is that the valuation changes, I don't know how they change the valuation year by year, but every year it goes up a little bit back more.
Right, but just for reference point,
Right.
so people
Correct.
can have informed discussion.
Then Tim, does that also include the second year of the bond vote increase that people are gonna see?
Well, this budget is, year two. It's year one of the big bond, and it's in here already, and that's literally half the increase you're seeing. And that'll be budgeted every year. It'll be in the default, because the community committed to it. So the default would take out all of the things that we added in would come out of the default. But half of it will definitely be in there through the bond.
So half of the increase? Is that what you just
Probably
said?
more than that, but like all the utility stuff has to go into the default.
Yeah,
But
no, I understand.
right, I'm just saying half of the increase that's in this budget book is from the bond.
That's,
And
yeah,
there's
that's
no
what
way.
I thought you
Right,
said.
yeah.
So half from the bond, and the other half is from all of our salaries, benefits, and so forth.
Utilities going up.
Utilities, yep.
You know, Stephen mentioned oil's double what we budgeted for already, so.
Good chunk of our budget bond payment.
Yep.
Yep. Anything, Tim? Thank you. Your unfinished business. We have a second reading of EBCA, Crisis Prevention and Emergency Response Plans Revised, and together with that is EBCA-R, the Emergency Plans Checklist. And
Which has been withdrawn.
which was withdrawn, so that's, yeah,
We just want people to know we're taking a policy out.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. So I know that there were some editorial changes made to that, and I think, Lil, I think you were the one who did the editorial work on this. Is there anything are there any substantive changes that we should be aware of?
There was only one really kind of, not substantive, but questionable change in the EGR policy outlined for the district communication plan under section D.
Okay.
D1, identify protocols for contacting parents and guardians when their child is, and then A, struggling in class, B, facing disciplinary action, or C, being awarded an award. And the question that we had, and I don't know that we got an answer to resolve that, was, is this actually our current practice to contact parents or guardians when their child is being awarded an award? And anecdotally, our evidence in the room was that it was not consistent. So sometimes parents were notified if their kid got an award and sometimes they weren't. And so I just wanted to make sure that if we were going to put it into a policy, then it has to now be what happens, right? So, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to put it into the policy if we have an inconsistent and we're okay with the inconsistent. So that was the only thing we hadn't resolved.
And I asked about that at SALT, and there are times, as you mentioned, where students are notified, but a good example would be senior awards, or the end of the middle school, sometimes there are awards
my question, I guess, is this the sort of thing that we want to hold this up? Or can we live with a certain amount of ambiguity in the interest of moving on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can, because the out that we have is the plan says identify the protocols. So if the protocol is that in certain instances we do and in certain instances we don't, then you just identify that and make sure that that's known somewhere, and then we can leave this the way it is. It just sort of pushes the responsibility back to say that there is some kind of protocol that we've articulated.
Okay, so back to the top of the list. May I please have a motion to accept policy EBCA, crisis prevention and emergency response plans revised?
Sure. I'll make a motion to accept policy EBCA, crisis prevention and emergency response plans revised.
Second by Stephen. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, 7-0. We do need to, I guess we need to vote on the withdrawal of the checklist EBCA-R. So we can have a motion to approve the withdrawal of EBCA-R.
I'll make a motion to withdraw EBCA-R emergency plans checklist.
Thank you. Second by Stephen. Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0. And please have a motion to accept as revised the new policy EG, district communication plan.
Make a motion to accept policy EG district communication plan as revised.
Further discussion, questions, corrections? All in favor? 7-0. Finally, the outline of district communication plan, EGR.
Make a motion to accept policy EGR outline district communication plan as revised.
And second by Stephen. Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0, unanimous. Thank you. Lil, thank you for your work on EGR. Committee updates. Finance and Facilities Committee met on Thursday, November the 3rd. Next meeting is December the 15th. Is there anything else to report out of that meeting that didn't come out during our FIP discussion?
No, not really.
Please, Aaron.
Oh, you already said that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just vaguely related to the track, but I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the meeting. I just wanted to, we talked earlier last meeting about celebrating good things that were happening in the district. We talked about celebrating the Mount Leb. I did want to mention that the boys cross country team qualified for New England's for the first time in school history. So they're going, they were 3rd at state division 2 meets and then 4th at the meet of champs. And so now they're going to the New England's in Rhode Island. It's the first time they've ever done it. And one of the girls is also qualified. So this is very exciting for cross country boys and girls.
It is indeed. And we look forward to the spring hosting meets here.
Right.
For track and field. We'll talk a little bit more about that on the track fundraising report. Policy Committee next meets on November the 28th. EC next meets, Education Committee meets next on Monday, November 21st. The Personnel Negotiation Committee is presently between jobs.
We're kicking back eating bonbons.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're doing nothing. Please, just a reminder for the board members to please stick around after the adjournment of the meeting. Student Wellness Advisory Committee next meets on January 4th. Our Area Career Technical Center met on November 8th. Joanne, I think we already talked about that. Area committee doesn't meet again until the end of February, February 28th, and that's going to be here at the middle school. The school district city task force meeting, the last meeting was canceled. The next meeting is January the 27th at City Hall. Track fundraising subcommittee, unfortunately Brooke Herndon is out of town, but she did provide a two-page summary of where the committee stands. And I can just make a couple brief comments about this. The committee met just this on Tuesday, I think it was, and which will probably be our last meeting, the last meeting of that committee for quite some time, since the job is done, and so the fundraising necessarily years now. So you can see on the dashboard in the front, fell short of the goal, but total gifts so far are a little under $89,000. There are still a significant number of grant applications that are pending, and so hopefully some of these, particularly the larger ones, will come in, and there'll be a larger amount contributed to offset the costs of the track. One of the things that we will need to be looking at is to talk about signage to recognize the major donors, people at the, I think, above $2,000 level, or the ability to name a lane of the track or a jump area or something like that, according to the donors' wishes. And we'll be working with Tim and Joanne, and eventually with Finance and Facilities, to determine what sort of marker or however that can be done. Plan is to have a formal dedication in the spring, at a track meet in the spring, but the track, as you know, is functional now. There's some few little signage issues that I know will be taken care of, such as letting people know that it's not okay to run on the track with their dog, and thinking about what we can do in the wintertime to make sure that it doesn't get messed up. But anyway, so that's where we are. And as I say, the details are all in this two-page report. Future agenda items, board member recommendations or questions. Just letting you know, Joanne sent me just today the agenda for the Saturday budget review meeting, and I made a change in that we always have public comment at the beginning of these meetings, and I inserted a second public comment period after the board has done all of its questions, heard its presentations, and before we start looking at possibly finalizing the budget. I thought it was only right if people want to either endorse or to take issue with some of the things that the board may decide to do during the course of that meeting. We should give people the opportunity to say so, rather than waiting until the deliberative session, where the only thing they can do is suggest that a specified amount of money be withdrawn from the budget without earmarking it. So I hope there's no objection to having two public comment periods. I don't know who's going to take advantage of that, but that will happen. The other thing that's going to happen at that meeting at the very beginning is we will have a vote on the two collective bargaining agreements from the administrators group and the Lebanon support staff. You'll get a briefing on that later on and have that information, so you'll have the opportunity to digest that, and we'll have a public vote on that.
I also left the next school board meeting as Wednesday, November 23rd, because I always go to the board and say, are you sure that you don't want to meet the evening before Thanksgiving. And then we usually say yes, and I take it out. So is there agreement that we will not hold a meeting on Wednesday, the 23rd? Just nods are fine. Okay, thank you.
Is there any objection? No, I thought not. Okay, so important dates, other important dates, Saturday, November 19th, 8 o'clock here. Deliberative session, February 4th, 2023, here. Here, oh, we're going to have it here, in the cafeteria?
It's up to wherever you want to do it.
Yeah, well, we can decide. Okay, the only other remaining issue is the superintendent search update. And since the chairman of our search committee is here, I asked Karen if she could just give us a brief summary for the members of the board who are not on the committee.
Okay, sure. Well, our committee of 13 has had 2 meetings, and we have a third scheduled for tomorrow. The Bryant Group has been facilitating a process, and the facilitator, the person that is working with us, her name's Michelle Munson, and it's a process that is going to result in a position description and a recruitment effort that reflects the Lebanon communities. On Monday, the 14th of November, there will be a community forum. It's supposed to be here from 6 to 7. We'll have our 4th meeting just prior to the forum, and we've put announcements out on our school websites. The school messenger went out today. There will be invitations in the Valley News. We're also hoping that they'll put it in the Valley News calendar. Diane is trying to make that happen. And also on the SAU website, when you click on the board tab, it drops down and you can see the search committee information. We have agendas and meeting minutes there, and then other kinds of information will flow, and we'll post it there as well. So that's where we are.
Questions for Karen? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
There's only one thing left to do. Steve,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second? Second by MJ. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone.